Hi everyone, it's Herchy, Inspector with the RSPCA, and welcome to the RSPCA's virtual One Fun Day. So I'm really excited to answer some of your questions. So hopefully you'll be joining me and I'll be able to answer all of your questions. So I've been an inspector for about 20 years, and being in the RSPCA is very exciting, quite challenging, and sometimes also very heartbreaking. But the good thing is, you know, we are here to rescue as many animals as we can. And I'm here now for the next 45 minutes to answer any questions that you guys may have. So please join in if you can and ask away. It'll be good to you know, have a bit of a chat and see what you're all interested in and see what you want to know about what it's like to be an inspector. I'm hoping that you've all had a good day, and I'm hoping that you've all been watching this morning. There's been quite a few things that have been going on. I understand that I think Kate's been cooking some dog treats, so hopefully you've seen that. And there's a lot more coming on later on after me as well, including a dog show. So I'm sure that you're all having a lovely day. It's quite warm outside, but I'm kind of hoping that you're going to be sticking with us till the end of the day. So I've got here a question from Louise, who's asking, what did you do before you were an inspector? So before I was an inspector, I worked as a veterinary nurse. I did that for around 2.5 years. I worked in a practice that had both small and large animals initially, and really enjoyed that. So had quite a lot of experience, you know, working hands-on with animals. I've just got another question coming through. So Carly is asking what her 12-year-old can do to help the RSPCA. Oh, Carly, thank you for that question. That's lovely. There's lots of things that you can do to help the RSPCA. If you can, obviously, firstly, be kind to animals. I'm sure you know you are, but you know, if you can be kind to all animals, domestic and wildlife. There's lots of things that you can probably try and do, Carly, in terms of you know, events. If somebody could sponsor you doing a few things. I know you're probably not at school at the moment, but if you could raise awareness about being kind to animals, and also help raise a little bit of money, that would be really great, because it keeps us all going and it keeps us being able to help animals. So you know, that's vital really for the work that we do. So it says, Zoe would like to know what my most challenging case was. Wow, so that's a difficult question. You know, I've had a lot of challenging cases, but I think a very recent one that I had was a puppy farming case. So it was people that were obviously buying, you know, dogs and then breeding from them and then producing puppies. These puppies were unfortunately very poorly when they were sold, and that was an extremely difficult case. Not only was it hard to watch puppies, which are, you know, like all young animals, very vulnerable and adorable, it was just difficult dealing with so many animals. In this case, you know, we had well over 80 dogs, and they were having puppies. So it was a very difficult, challenging case. But the good news is all of the puppies that were born in the RSPCA's care went on to have lovely homes, and you know, the person that was responsible was prosecuted by the RSPCA and not allowed to keep animals for life. So that's a really good thing. So I've another question here saying EcoLife would like to be an inspector when they are older. What can they do? Great question. So lots of people think that to be an RSPCA inspector, you have to have lots and lots of experience with animals, but actually it's good to have lots of experience with people too. The one thing that I do a lot in my job is that I'm dealing with owners and I'm dealing with people much more than I'm actually dealing with animals sometimes. So, you know, if you can do a job where you're doing something very social, that could be as simple as working in a shop, you know, working in a restaurant, or just anywhere like that where you're in contact with a lot of people. That's really good practice. So retail, if you worked in retail, that would be good practice. You know, do something like that. Also get as much experience as you can. So maybe do voluntary work somewhere. That's how I started. I did work at the RSPCA's animal home in Leicester, my hometown. So I worked in the cattery. So you know, if you can get some experience with animals, and a variety of animals if possible, I know that's not always easy, then that's really good. So, you know, a bit of wildlife, small domestic animals, and hopefully you've eco-life, you have a dog or a cat or a pet at home. So another question here, it says, Mary wants to ask what she should do if she finds a baby bird. At the moment, that's a really good question, Mary, because we're getting loads of baby birds. It's that time of year. If you find a baby bird, please leave it alone unless you think it's injured and extremely vulnerable at that point in time. So obviously if you see a cat near it, the best thing to do is leave it alone, because parents are around and they are feeding them. There is a period of time that baby birds are on the ground. So it's really important to leave them be and let mum and dad raise them. But as I say, if they are sick or injured, then please put them in a box and either take them to your local vet, or you contact the RSPCA and we'll pick them up and hopefully be able to rehabilitate them. So Anita wants to know would like to know what my favorite animal is. Oh, Anita, that's a really difficult question, because I like all animals genuinely. But if I had to really choose, it would be between a dog and a cow. I have worked with cows before, and they are extremely intelligent and really lovely animals, actually. And I love dogs, very passionate about dogs. So it's a very difficult one, Anita, that for me. So I'd say both, really. So question here saying Jessica wants to help as a volunteer when she is older. That's brilliant, Jessica. That's lovely to know as well. Wow, Jessica has raised £100. That's brilliant, Jessica. Thank you so much. That's absolutely wonderful. Thank you from the bottom of my heart, because that goes a really long way into helping. So you want to be a volunteer when you're older. That's great, Jessica. Please contact your you know, your local animal centre. Obviously things are a little bit difficult at the moment with everything that's going on, you know, with the coronavirus, which is obviously why we're having this virtual One Fun Day. But if you contact your local animal centre, Jessica, when everything is hopefully back to normal, great if you could go and volunteer and, you know, help with the dogs, help with the cats, and help with any animals that your centre has. As I say, that's what I did at my local animal rescue centre, which was the RSPCA in Leicester. So Paul wants to know if I have a rescue that sticks in my mind. Oh, I've done so many different rescues with so many different animals over the years, a lot of wildlife, a lot of birds, etc. But I think one that really sticks in my mind, Paul, was when I had to deal with a dog, which was a Rottweiler, and the dog had come out of a window and onto a flat, very, very small ledge above, and this was on a main road where there were some shops. That was really difficult because this dog was obviously very panicked. It was a very large dog. It climbed out of the window and it was starting to walk on this ledge. There was also a big crowd of people around me, and really frustratingly, some of the lads that were there were unfortunately not being very nice to the dog and were throwing things at it. So it became a really difficult situation. I was, you know, obviously quite anxious. I didn't want the dog to jump. And also trying to control the crowd of people that were wanting to just to stare at the dog, and also for some strange reasons throw things at it. The good thing is the dog was rescued because a gentleman had gone upstairs in his flat and opened his window, and we managed to get the dog to actually go through the window and into safely into another apartment. But yeah, obviously lots of advice to the owner not to leave the window open. And I was extremely relieved. But yeah, for sheer anxiety, Paul, that was a very difficult rescue. So Rick is asking what the most frustrating situation is that I come across. Oh, Rick, that's unfortunately, I think the most frustrating thing for me is when I advise people on really basic stuff that I feel they should really know. When I say basic stuff, Rick, I'm talking about things like feeding your animal and getting it veterinary treatment. Those are things that I think any pet owner should just know that they need to do. So, you know, it's vital that you provide good food and water and shelter for your animal, but also that you provide veterinary care when your animal needs it. So I think, Rick, that's probably the thing that frustrates me the most, that I have to remind people to do that. It would be lovely as well to know where people are actually. So if you can, say where you are, guys. That would be really good to know whereabouts in the country that you are. So Bucky would like to know why it is important to neuter your puppy. Bucky, that's a great question, and thank you for asking about neutering. Neutering is really important. So neutering has a lot of both health benefits, and it can have some behavioral benefits too for your dog. The health benefits are that in a male dog, neutering will prevent things like testicular tumors with your dog when they're older, and also prevent things like prostate problems. So when male dogs get older, they can suffer from these things, you know, tumors on their testicles, and also things like prostate problems. And for a female dog, you know, it's important to neuter her. One, to prevent her from having puppies. You know, it's really important that people, you know, remember that, you know, if you have a female dog, neutering is essential. You know, there's lots of rescue animals, and we are, you know, keen to stop unwanted litters of puppies. But also it stops her having something called a pyometra, which is an infection that can develop in a female dog when she's older. So, you know, neutering is really good. And Bucky, please, you know, speak to your local vet, and, you know, have a look online at more information if you want to know more about neutering. But it's a great idea. Claire is asking what she should think about if she wants to get a dog. So Claire, firstly, think about what kind of dog you want. So think about the size of place that you live in. Is it a big place? Do you want a big dog, or is it a smaller place? Would a smaller dog be better for you? Also, Claire, think about the time that you have. So how much time do you have in your life to devote to a dog? Because the one thing that dogs need is a lot of company. So are you at a stage where you're at work and then you come home from work? And I'm obviously talking, Claire, when things are back to normal. Can you devote a lot of time in the evening to the dog? How much exercise do you do, Claire? How much exercise can you provide for a dog? And then think about what breed of dog that you then want. Do you want a dog that's very energetic, like a collie, that you can, you know, that you can do lots of exercise with? Are you happy to go out for long walks? Or do you want a dog that's a lot, you know, calmer, and you're not going to have to exercise as much? All dogs need exercise, obviously, but some dogs need more exercise than others. And, you know, think about your lifestyle and think about, you know, how that fits in with you as well. And whatever you get, Claire, I'd love to know. So, and good luck. Paul in Horsham is asking how many calls you normally deal with, and has the pandemic made it busier? So, Paul, in one day, inspectors will receive priority incidents, certainly at the moment. So during the pandemic, we've been busier with calls to wildlife because I think people have been going out and about when they've been able to, and they've been going out for walks, etc., and obviously into parks. And we have been busier in those kind of calls. We've also been a little bit restricted in the type of jobs that we can do. Obviously going into people's houses, unless it's a very serious issue, we can't do that. The pandemic has actually caused us, just like everybody in the country, a lot of difficulties. You know, we're still trying to do our job as best as we can in a very, very difficult situation. So in an average day, Paul, the difficulty is that I could either do one job that takes me the entire day, if I'm removing animals, if I have to call the police out, if I have to take a lot of animals into our care, that can take up the whole day. Or, Paul, sometimes I can end up knocking loads of doors and nobody's home. So it can really vary on the amount of calls that we get. If obviously one inspector is overloaded with calls, then obviously colleagues will help out. And also if we are dealing with a case, then we don't deal with any other calls, we just concentrate on that one job. But yeah, it really varies. And yes, we have become busier with the pandemic. Also, we've got less staff on as well at the moment. For obvious reasons, like any organization, we have got also members of staff that aren't able to work. So yeah, it's affected us. It's affected us a lot, actually. Oh, Rolo, the therapy dog, is watching and says hello. Hello, Rolo. So I'm really pleased to have any audience, actually. So to have Rolo joining, and he's a therapy dog. Well done, Rolo, for doing that. That's a great job and really worthy. So you're probably more well behaved in comparison to my two dogs, which are not in the room at the moment because they were being very naughty before we started. So I had to put them out. They may make an appearance a bit later, but they would have knocked over everything, I think, the mood that they were in at the moment. So yes. So these are great questions, guys. You're thinking of some really varied things. And as I say, it's actually quite nice to know that people are watching, but also it's nice to know where you are. So it would be great for me to know which parts of the country that you're in, and I can give a shout out then to your different areas. As I say, I will say it again, I'm a Leicester girl, so that's where I grew up and that's my hometown. And as I say, that's where I started when I was really young, probably about 13, doing some volunteer work with the very good Woodside Animal Shelter in Leicester. So I'm just looking at this screen. Ooh. And Shannon is asking if I have any tips for dog training. I'll tell you a few of my tips, but you also want to tune in later to Sam Gaines live, who's going to talk about behavior. So she'll have some very good ideas and tips, but tips on dog training. So I think the most important thing when you're training your dog is to make sure that you do it with kindness and have a lot of patience too. Dogs really respond to positive reinforcement. So if your dog is doing something, naughty and that you don't want it to, ignore that kind of behavior. But if your dog is doing something good and positive, definitely reward that behavior. It doesn't have to always be with treats. You can always do it with praise or by giving them their favorite toy. How I tended to, train both of my dogs was I would ask them to sit, and if they did it immediately, I would give them a treat or their favorite toy. Also, keep the sessions really, really short, Shannon, because what can sometimes happen with a dog is they lose concentration quite quickly. They get bored, especially a puppy. So you make them sort of, a few minutes at a time, and then maybe come back to it a bit later in the day or the next day, and vary up as much as you can. I think if you can teach the basics, sit, stay, and the recall command, which is really important when your dog's loose, that's the most vital thing that you can do, really. So you've got good control over your dog in any sort of outside situation. Although we all know what dogs can be like, and when they suddenly decide that they don't want to listen to you, that can be frustrating. Always take, even now, one of my dogs, Loki, he's 1 year old, but he can get easily distracted. So what I tend to do is take a few treats with me in my pocket when I'm out with him, and when he's loose, to get him back sometimes. I will sort of almost show him the treat and he'll come running, and then I'll make him sit and then I'll give him the treat. And another thing I will just say is when you call your dog back, don't always just call your dog back to put it on a lead, because then it will always associate that with the end of fun time, really. Sometimes just call your dog back, praise your dog for coming back to you, give him a treat, and then let them go again. And that way they don't think that every time they come back to you, it means going home. So Pauline from Radnorshire and Montgomery Branch is watching and says hello. Oh, hello, Pauline. Thank you very much for watching and taking the time to join the One Fun Day. And it's great that you're at the branch as well. So hello, Pauline, to you. It says here that Jessica's in Coventry and she says that you're her favourite dog rescuer and she loves the show. Thank you, Jessica. That means a lot. It genuinely does. And I'm really glad that you like the dog rescuers. Always keep watching because hopefully at some point soon it will be back on. And the Dog Rescuers is a great program and really does show the variety of stuff that the inspectors and the animal collection officers do. Sue would like to know if there is a way to help dogs when their owners go back to work after lockdown. Sue, that's a brilliant question. So I think the one thing that that I've been making sure that I've done is having a little bit of continuity for the dogs. So instead of, it's really difficult with dogs at home at the moment in lockdown because you're with your dogs all the time. What I would encourage you to try and do is go out of the house and come back an hour or two later, just so that your dogs get used to you being back, and do that before you go back to work, just so that it's not too much of a shock for them, you know, when you leave. And if need be, Sue, if you've got certain treats or toys, I have a little trick actually, that when I go to work, I leave certain toys for my dogs that they really enjoy, but they never see those toys at any other time. They have different toys then. And that way they almost understand that it means that I'm going to work and that they're going to be on their own. And it works really well because they're really excited then to see those toys because they haven't seen them, you know, when I've been home for the weekend or something. So it kind of varies it up. So I think it's really important though that you do leave the house as much as you can, even if it means going on your own for a walk without the dogs, just so they don't get, so it's not a big shock to them when you do go back to work. Paul is asking if I have a favorite wildlife animal that I deal with. Wow, that's a good question, Paul. Paul, I love all wildlife, and at the moment we're picking up so many different varieties of wildlife. You know, I deal with everything from, so far this year I've had a badger cub, fox cub, cygnets, swans, many swans actually, and lots of ducklings. I think I do really like corvid birds, so crows and magpies. I think they have a very special relationship, you know, within their you know, in their family dynamic, unlike other small birds like blue tits, robins, etc. Crows and magpies, they stay with their young and they stay in that extended family for around 5 years. So I think they're fascinating. But all the you know, it's sad to say, but all the baby animals are lovely, and just wildlife, it's an actual privilege to spend time with wildlife and help them as much as we can. So, you know, you know, it's a difficult one to choose, but ducklings are very lovely. So Amanda would like me to say hello to Emma and the team from the RSPCA Hearts East branch. Hello to Amanda, Emma, and the whole of the team at the Hearts East branch. Thank you for everything that the branches do, actually. They do a fantastic job. And also, thank you very much for watching. Annabelle would like to get a puppy. Do they come into rescue at the RSPCA? Yes, Annabelle, we do get, it's Annabella actually, sorry. We do actually get a lot of puppies in. You know, sometimes we can get whole litters of puppies in, and also sometimes when we do case jobs like puppy farm jobs, we do get a lot of puppies in. The thing about puppies though, Annabella, is that they come in and they do end up going out quite quickly. And we also make it an actual, you know, real point of when puppies come into the centre, we try and get them out very quickly to foster homes. And the reason for that is that puppies have a, you know, a window of opportunity where they need to be socialized, and kennels is not a good environment for a puppy. You know, they need to learn all the things that you know, a puppy learns when they're in a house. So noises like the TV, you know, the Hoover, all these other things, they need to go out and about, they need to socialize with the public, they need to hear all the noises. So we always make sure that if we do have any puppies in, they go out to fosterers, and fosterers do you know, a wonderful job, you know, looking after those puppies and getting them, you know, puppies able to go out into a permanent home. Always look, Annabella, on your local RSPCA site, you know, if you're looking for a puppy, because as I say, they do puppies do come up, but because they are very popular, they go out very quickly. So Shannon wants to know what toys are good for dogs and what games are good to play. So there's such a variety of toys, Shannon, for dogs. There's toys that dogs can chew. So you get the sort of nylabone chews that dogs can gnaw at. You can get obviously squeaky toys. A lot of the toys that dogs play with, though, you do have to be careful that you make sure that you know whether or not you can leave the dog alone with that toy. There's some really good toys that distract dogs, you know, especially if you're going out to work and you need your dog to be distracted for a period of time and use their, you know, they use their mind a lot, and that makes them tired. So toys like a Kong toy, you can put food in those. There's a whole variety actually that the Kong range do. So, you know, do look at that. The thing about plastic squeaky toys are, though, that you've got to be careful, those rubber ones, that you don't leave them with the dog, because if they chew them, they can pull them apart and then they can ingest the bits. So my dogs have a variety of toys like that, but I make sure that the squeaky toys, they don't get left with any squeaky toys, nothing that they can destroy, which is very difficult depending on what type of dog you have. Jackie says, thanks for all the useful advice. Oh, thank you, Jackie. I'm hoping that I'm doing this at speed so that we can get as many questions in as I can. And I obviously want you all to remember that, you know, Sam Gaines from the RSPCA is going to do a live behaviour session later. So please make sure that you tune in and to watch that, because she'll have lots of very good advice and lots of tips on things like behaviour. And she's an expert in that. So, you know, you definitely want to tune in if you can see that. Do we ever rescue fish? Yes, we do. So sometimes we deal with jobs that are abandonments, and abandonments are where people unfortunately move out and leave their animals behind. That can sometimes mean fish in the garden, in a pond. Obviously, it's difficult to move fish. Any good owner would, you know that they have fish in their garden and prepare to move those, and obviously put them somewhere in between before they could obviously create a pond in their new home. But it's quite common for us to get fish left in back gardens, in ponds, carp. You know, we get some really, you know, big fish that are left behind. Also, people will not, you know, they don't sometimes take tanks with them. They'll leave those in their property too. And those could be big tanks with, you know, cold water fish in, or they could also be tropical fish, which is always something that's baffled me, because fish are very expensive, you know, and the setup for fish is quite, you know, intricate. You need a lot of things. So I've always found it, you know, baffling that you would, you know, get all that set up and then just leave them behind. It's a real shame. But yes, we do get fish abandoned and we do get fish left behind. Mary asks if you get upset when you see animals in bad conditions. Yeah, unfortunately, Mary, that's something that's always there, and it's the very difficult part of my job. I've always thought it's quite a contradiction to want to be an inspector, because, you know, you passionately love animals and you really want to help them, and it's really heartbreaking to see animals in distress, but then you go and choose to do a job that's exactly what you end up seeing. So yeah, you know, it makes me very upset to see animals in you know, pain or discomfort, but I always have to remind myself that I'm there to help them. I'm there to do you know, a job, and more importantly, I always think about the long term and how I'm going to be able to, you know, make that animal's life a lot better. And the reward for me, and it is a very rewarding job, is to see the animals recover and then go into their new homes. And actually, that's one of the things that I like so much about the dog rescuers, that I actually get to see, you know, the animals and where they end up. Because as an inspector, you know, I rescue a lot of animals, and I deal with so many that sometimes we're not able to go and find out the end result of all of them. So it's actually really nice to see sort of, you know, where they end up and being, you know, them in their forever home, really. So just to give people an idea of the sort of how many officers there are in the RSPCA and the areas that we cover. So there are around, normally when everybody's working, 320 inspectors working in the RSPCA, and we all cover a very large area. So in terms of miles, I could do jobs that are an hour and a half away sometimes. I could also do jobs that are very closer. I cover a very large area, and if an officer is tied up with a job, the next officer could be, miles away. So please just always bear that in mind, guys, when you call, and you're waiting for an inspector or an animal collection officer to come and collect an animal, that, we are extremely busy covering large areas, but we also, every job is taken very seriously, and we do our best to make sure that when we're going to come, and how far away we are. The other thing as well is that sometimes when you're on your way to another job, another more serious job could come in, like a road traffic accident with an animal, and you can get diverted to another job. So we always have to react. Our day changes quite rapidly sometimes. I could think I know what I'm doing on any given day, and all of a sudden there's something throws that off completely, and I have to head in the completely opposite direction. And that can be frustrating because you don't want to let people down, and you've told them you're going to come at a certain time. But it's also really important that we respond to the welfare needs of every animal as they come in, and obviously prioritize. That's a really big thing that we have to do. We're constantly prioritizing. The control center is constantly prioritizing the jobs that we have to do. And at the moment, there's so many animals out and about. The weather is warm, so we are hectic. But please rest assured that we are there to rescue and help as many animals as we can. So Henry would like to know why you can't take animals away if someone is being mean to them. Oh, Henry, we do our absolute best to advise people and educate them. That's really important, because what we want is, we want people to have pets. We want them to have animals and also keep their own. However, if somebody is being mean to their animals, and they don't listen to the advice, and they don't listen to what we've asked them to do, then we will remove them. And we have to do that, though, within the constraints of what the legislation and what the law says. So it's not always easy for us. We may feel that an animal's not being treated the way it needs to be treated. And the public might feel that an animal's not being treated the way that it should be treated. But the law might say that at that point in time, the law hasn't been broken enough for us to take that animal away. And that's the worst part of my job, Henry. And it's really frustrating. It's awful to know that you've asked someone to do something and they're just on that sort of line of just about doing enough, and not probably to the standard that we would, really like. But they're not. It's not bad enough for us to be able to do something. And believe me, Henry, I share your, your passion for that, and I also understand that's difficult. It's really difficult. So Catherine would like to know if there is an animal that you are scared of. Oh, Catherine. I don't know if I should admit this, Catherine, actually. I'm not actually scared of anything. However, I don't like daddy long legs. I know that's really silly, but I just don't. I find them, they just fly towards me, Catherine. I don't know why that is. They are crane flies, and bless them, they only live for a day. So I do my absolute best to open the window and let them out. But if they sort of seem to fly around my house, Catherine, in the October that they come out, and they always make a beeline for me. I'm actually not afraid of any animals, though, which is a good thing. I'm always respectful, though, of snakes and spiders. We do deal with snakes and spiders, and you have to sort of know what you're, and have a good, healthy respect for certain animals. But yeah, very good question, Catherine. And now I've probably embarrassed myself by telling everybody that I'm scared of daddy long legs. John would like to know how long a typical job takes. Do they take a long time? Yeah, John, it's actually quite an interesting question, that, because some jobs are very quick. If you knock a door, nobody's home, you might leave a card and you're away from there within 5 minutes. But then there are some jobs where you initially go in because you think you're going to see a dog and you're giving advice about the one dog. But actually, when you get there, the owner might have a cat, they might have a bird, they might have lots and lots of other animals too. So sometimes you think you're going to give advice about just one animal, and you actually end up giving advice about lots of different animals. Also, John, rescues, they take a long time. So, you know, the other week I had a rescue of some ducklings that were trapped. Mother duck had had her ducklings in a false chimney pot on top of a house. I had to get the fire service out to help me. And it took about 2.5 hours, John, that job did. The great news was that mother duck was still flying around, and we were able to get the ducklings out and actually reunite them with the mum on the canal, and it was amazing. But yeah, we have no idea how long a job is going to take. So yeah, great question. Joe is asking why she sometimes see things on social media that you can't deal with. So Joe, that's actually a really good question, and I'm actually really glad that you asked that, because you know, sometimes when I'm on Twitter, it's really frustrating when the public think that you know, we're not doing something. There's a lot of, you know, there's a lot going on, Joe, behind the scenes when you see jobs that you're talking about on social media, and there's a lot of work going on usually with the owner of that animal that you can't see and that we actually can't disclose because of, you know, confidentiality and things like data protection. You know, please rest assured that any animal that's alerted to us that you know, the public feel is in distress, we will go to it. You know, the jobs don't get closed. We will go to them until we can resolve them to our satisfaction, or at least to the satisfaction of the law. So you know, I really want people to know that you know, every job is taken very seriously, Joe. And it might look like we're not able to do something, or that we're not doing something, but we are. There's a lot going on that we can't disclose to you, you know, and you know, we're on this sort of fine line of trying to sort out the welfare of that animal and trying to, you know, work with the owner. And also, you know, the law is something that we have to work in. You know, we are a charity. We're not a governing body. We're not like the police. So, you know, we have limitations, which is very sad, but we do the absolute best that we can. All my colleagues, you know, they're very dedicated to animal welfare, and you know, they do a great job, and we're doing our absolute best. But you know, just please rest assured that we always will do everything that we can. Tony asks if you have to deal with things like ear cropping or dog fighting, like organised crime. Actually, Tony, one of my roles as an inspector is I do deal with organised crime, and I do deal with jobs that are specifically to do with organised crime. So things like puppy farming. I had a job very recently where I was dealing with a place that was ear cropping. Ear cropping is obviously illegal in this country, and it's the mutilation of a dog's ears for cosmetic reasons, and it's just, you know, it's a horrific thing to do to any puppy, and as I say, thankfully it's banned in this country. And I do deal with jobs like that. They are very difficult jobs to deal with, and especially when you see that those are puppies that this person's doing them to. And I'm very, very passionate about you know, making sure that we deal with cases effectively and properly. But yeah, those are jobs that I do deal with specifically because you know, one of my roles is a special investigations officer. So those type of jobs do come to me, and I do end up dealing with them. And they are rewarding in the end, but they are very difficult to deal with. So Cassandra is asking why puppy farms take so long to investigate. That's a good question, Cassandra. Puppy farms are very big jobs. They take a lot of work. When we do a big job like a puppy farm job, we take away a lot of equipment from the premises that we have to go through. Evidentially, it's a bit of a logistical nightmare to go through everything. So they just take a long time to go through court, because there's a lot of evidence that we have to gather, and there's a lot of animals that we're looking after too. So they just do take a long time to get there. So I think I want to thank you all that we're actually running out of time. You've been amazing, all of you. Thank you for all your questions. I just want to say, you know, please keep watching. There's a fun quiz coming up with Nikki Lilly, and also Michael the vet is doing Michael the vet, I think, is doing wildlife, guys, and there's also a live dog show later. So you know, have a look at that. That show, the final pet show, is you know, the dog show is on at 5, I believe. So have a look. Please stay with us. You know, there's a lot of other things to come. As I say, Sam Gaines is doing the behaviour stuff, and Nikki Lilly is up next. She's doing a fun quiz. So yeah, you know, you want to get your brains working for that. That would be a good one. I really appreciate all of you being here. Thank you so much for supporting the RSPCA, and also for all of your wonderful questions. So lovely to be here, and have a great day, everyone. Thank you.